NTO Sports episode 137, jam-packed episode. Not only did the for regular season for the NFL end up closing up this weekend, so we'll go over that. Plus, we got some college football round two. Those games happened New Year's Eve and New Year, so we will recap those as well. Plus, we got some other tidbits and tad bits to throw in there. So, with all that being said, guys, stay tuned. NFL Week 18, last week of the NFL season. Games were only on Saturday and Sunday. No more Thursday night football. I think we still have one more. I think we still have one more Monday night football, but it's Super Wild Card Monday. So I think after that, then we'll just be sticking to Sundays going into the divisional round. But with that being said, let's start on Saturday. We had two games Saturday. First one, Ravens, Browns. Not much of a contest there, Lawrence. Any thoughts? Saturdays? No, I didn't. Saturday, the first game, I was actually working, so I didn't catch. I think I caught the tail end of this one, but yeah, the Browns, they started what, Bailey Zappi, right? Okay. I saw Zappy in there at some point. I think he finished the game though, but yeah, he didn't look too good. Honestly, overall, they didn't look too good. They just kind of rolled over and handed the dub to Lamar and co. Not much to really break down. The Browns are bad. Ravens are, they're the third seed, right? And they play the Steelers in the divisional round. So we'll talk about the Steelers in literally like another minute. But it should be interesting to see how that game goes next week. But the Browns, they fired their OC, right? OC and DC, right? You don't know? Oh, yeah, and we'll get to those.
Focusing more on what's coming up for the college playoffs, and then honestly college basketball as well.
Yeah, so we got to go over a couple of the firings later on. But yeah, I think they fired their OC and DC. Starting fresh, looking for a quarterback. Let's move on to the game of the night, actually. Bengals, Steelers. I thought it was a great game. Our team actually played some defense for once. We can look at Pittsburgh and say Russ didn't have a good game. Damn sure George Pickens did not have a good game. He dropped like 3 or 4 passes, especially that on that last drive, on that out and up route. Had the rookie Newton, I think Newton was covering him, had him lost, and it's just dropped it. And that was the tail of the game. Russ couldn't make the throws he usually does. His wideouts dropping passes. The fourth and 12. Fryer, what was it? Fryer move dropped. I think he dropped a little post route. So nothing like the Steelers wanted. Four losses in a row. Bengals won 5 in a row, but we needed some help on Sunday, which did. One team came through, one team did not. But we'll stick to this game, Lawrence. What are your thoughts before I go any further?
The game were strictly that Russell Wilson, it can't be that quarterback anymore. I just don't think he's got it anymore. And I was calling that last week at the Chiefs game. You could kind of see glimpses of it in the Eagles game, but that last week in the Chiefs, this weekend at the versus the Bengals at home, he just looks off. He looks slow. Fundamentally, like going through his route or going through his progressions, he looks slow. The ball looks like it doesn't have any life coming out of it. It looks like he's an old man that's getting tired. It kind of feels like what he did at Denver. Because you remember when Sean Payton first got there in Denver, he kind of had a good little short period of he seemed really good. and they kind of fell off a cliff. And I kind of had the same boat mindset for the Steelers, except we're not blaming it completely on Russ because it's on the Steelers, because we think overall this is something the Steelers do season after season. Kind of start hot early, beat up their opponents when they have to play divisional and important games down the late in the season, look bad. So we're getting Russ some slack because the Steelers teams have done this before. However, I mean, doing it before and then repeating it, I think it's time to get Fields in there because I know it's a playoff game, but we should have some life. And you were still winning games early in the season when you had him starting, so it's not like he can't win a game for you. But I think it's time to hang up them cleats.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if, depending on how this playoff game goes, if they try to bring Russ back for another season, sign him long term, or do they try to bring Fields back, sign him long term? A lot of question marks with the Steelers, but we can get to those if and when they win or lose next week. But I think the Bengals played well. Joe didn't have a great second half though. Had that pick, had a fumble. Yeah, I don't know. It's just he did enough to win. So I can't blame him. I can't give him any blame. He got the W. That's all that matters. But the way the Steelers were playing, they easily could have put up 30 on the Steelers because it seemed like half the team came to play, half the team didn't show up. This seemed like a game that should have got blown out, and it was a little bit too close for comfort for me. But great way to finish the season, winning 5 straight. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but it seems like to me, my initial impressions of how the season went for us. At the beginning, I thought, hey, we were a lot of pieces away. Now reevaluating, I think the Bengals are probably only a couple pieces away, especially with old man Lou getting fired, along with some of the other support staff. So I think we're only a few pieces away, so that's a good thing. But we'll get into that later. Saturday and Sunday, I'll be honest, Lawrence, I ain't watching any of these games Sunday. So if you just want to roll through what games you watched and break them down.
Well, I didn't watch any of the Commanders game until the last 3 minutes, so I couldn't tell you when it went on from whistle to the last 3 minutes. Commanders were kind of pathetic, but they did sit a lot of guys in the second half. So
including Jaden.
And looking at that, well, they had McDaniel start, and then they kind of sat him at halftime. I guess they kind of figured it didn't really matter, 6 or 7 seed. Hopefully, our second string can beat Dallas' second string. I mean, outside of that, like I said, I didn't watch almost any of that game. The main game that I was watching was Carolina and the Falcons, because, as you know, I'm a big Falcons hater. They're the worst team in the league. Absolute despise any kind of Falcon. Anywho, Bryce Young went out there. He cooked them up. Chef Boyardee all over them.
I like it.
3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 5 touchdowns. My boy was going ham. Miles Sanders, as I still believe I don't want you on the team next year. You had a good send-off. I guess you would call it a send-off party. I hope they don't re-sign him or bring him back. I hope they cut him, get rid of him. Regardless, he kind of had a nice little send-off. Adam Thielen already just said that he's, retirement's not a closed door anymore. I was kind of sad about that one. I can't lie to you. I think if we can get one more season out of Thielen, and then just get some kind of good weapon in the door. I don't know, like a first round pick wide receiver, or just bring in a top tier wide receiver. Give me a little T. Higgins. I think give Thielen one more year. Let the guys under Thielen cook. I think Coker's really good. I think Legat's pretty good. I think they're both 3s and 2s though. I don't think they're 1s. So that kind of is the issue with that. However, come on, Thielen, one more year.
One more year for old man Thielen. I think he has it in him.
I feel like Bryce is he can't go nowhere. Like you You got to give him his due.
Yeah, he played his way into, at least in my opinion, a fifth year option. I don't know if they picked it up next year or the year after, but I feel like Bryce played his way into that at least. Any other games you watched on Sunday?
I could tell you I was in and out of the Buccaneers game. However, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really spend a whole lot of time physically watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch the Bills and the Patriots the first half. That was actually a really entertaining one. It kind of gave you an idea of what the Patriots could be on level soil with like an equal opponent. But obviously they don't have those in the league because their wide receiver core is god awful. Um, I think I saw that Jamar Chase has more receiving yards all season than the whole entire Patriots wide receiver room.
Put together, yeah.
Yes, that's really bad. You got to say what needs to be said. Anywho, um, it was good to see what the Patriots could be going forward. With equal competition. And honestly, something I thought of later because they're saying Gerard may or may not be fired. Well, winning that game, I think, in my opinion, got him fired.
Oh, for sure. It was same way with who was the Texans coach that won the last game, so the Texans couldn't get the first
Oh,
pick.
Lovey Smith.
Yeah, it's the same situation. In my opinion, at least, I feel like Robert Kraft kind of screwed him over. I don't think you see Gerard Mayo as a head coach anytime soon. He probably has to go be a DC somewhere, if that.
Yeah, he's
I
got to go
think.
back to DC.
Yeah, I think it's a really messed up situation overall. We'll get into it a little bit later. I am glad I watched the last little bit of the Saints Buccaneers. I'm glad that at least one organization is good to its players and will allow them to get their incentives. So shout out to Mike Evans for getting the last 5 yards in that last play when they could have nailed it. Got his I think it was like $3 million in incentives, right? Wasn't that if he hit 1,000 yards, it was a $3 million incentive?
Yep.
Yeah, so shout out to them. I thought that was awesome. I had to pull over on the side of the road to watch that. That was just awesome.
They
And
let
then
they let Geno Smith get his as well.
yeah, so when you look at good franchises you want to be a part of, definitely Seahawks and Buccaneers. Some of these other franchises, cough cough, them boys are kind of run by some shitheads. So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, the Bucks they lock up they'll be the third seed, right? Because they play the Commanders.
Yep.
Okay, like that for them.
They flip flop with the Rams.
The Rams, yeah.
The Rams losing to the Seahawks, and the Rams, they sat their whole team.
I guess they don't care who they play, right?
Yeah, they didn't care.
I feel that. I feel like maybe this is a little future insight, but I feel like the Rams have one more. And when I mean Rams, I feel like Stafford has one more playoff push in him. I feel like maybe after this year, maybe I would try to move off of Stafford, but I feel like he has enough juice in the tank to get them to one more, at the very least, NFC Championship game.
I don't think they have anything else this season. I think the Vikings are going to take care of business when they. I think the Vikings. So only game left that's important to talk about because you could bring up the Broncos beating the hell out of the Chiefs, but
that's not worth it.
We all knew it was going to happen, so it's not like it's a big deal. But honestly, I feel strongly about the fact that the Vikings got played by the refs very early on in that Lions game, where multiple times they were getting momentum, and the Lions were. I mean, it was mainly on defense for the Lions. They had a lot of pass interferences, in my opinion. Now, I didn't even bet on a spread, winner or loser, or anything on this game.
Yeah.
I was just strictly doing player props. So I had no bias in it at all. Honestly, I was actually hoping the Lions were going to win because I want to see the Lions be the number one seed and I want to see them do good because they've always been so bad for so long. But when I started watching this game, like from the beginning to the end, it's just like no matter what the Vikings did, in any situation, the refs were going to bail out the Lions defense. And there was multiple times where it looked like the Lions guys were doing pass interferences and they just weren't calling it. And then anything the Vikings did, automatic got to call it. Uh, I don't know if you paid attention to like that deep or you had some biases, but I feel like the Lions, yeah, they scored 31 points, but there was a lot of drives that were killed. And some of those, you know, red zone attempts, I think it was 3 that they didn't convert that could have been touchdowns or field goals for that matter. I feel like there's a lot of PIs and some holdings in there. That's just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And those are big point swings that could have gone one way or another way.
Yeah, I feel like the Vikings had every chance to kind of go up in this game, and I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like Sam Darnold kind of sold this one.
He sold a little bit too in the red zone attempts. I'm not saying it was every time, but there were a lot of times where, I mean, the one was T.J. Hawkinson over the middle, just gets PI'd so hard, looking around, not calling. I'm like, okay, but you can tell what's gonna happen in this game. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think also he did sell, so I can't put this all on the Zebras. And I want to be fair to Sam Darnold, and I want to say that this is one of the biggest games he's probably ever played in. He doesn't play for much, and you go back to last year, he was a backup. So maybe it was a lot on his shoulders, and he couldn't handle it. Well, guess what, buddy? You play the Rams, and win or go home situation next week. So. I don't know how he's going to fare again next week, knowing that that type of pressure's on him. And honestly, I feel like the outcome of next week is probably what tells you if they bring him back or not, or maybe they tag him or.
No, I get that.
Yeah. So, do I think he'll sell next week? I don't think so, but I feel like if anything, this past Sunday night game is indication of what could happen though, because they can't win if he plays like this, even against the Rams. And the Rams defense is way worse than the Lions. The Lions are missing a lot of players, but their defense stepped up big time. But the Rams, they don't really play defense. So if you can't shred that defense up, then that's a problem. So yeah, that's all of week 18. Hate to see it go, but honestly, Lawrence, I'm a little bit football out. I'm kind of like, let's kind of get this thing over with. At least let's get to the playoffs, because when you go back and look at it, 18 weeks of football is a lot. And this season, honestly, a lot of the games were bad.
I think for you, it's more the emotional roller coaster that you had to go on through the season. Like for me, my team was bad, so like I didn't really have up and down weeks. It was mainly just down weeks, but with hope and promise.
I feel like even for me, it wasn't okay. If you take the Bengals out of it, me watching the other games, I'm like, these are kind of bad.
I don't know. Some teams grew on me throughout the season, which kept me interested throughout the season. For instance, I grew to like the Chargers, the way they play, how tough they play.
Yeah,
I find the Chargers to be very enjoyable to watch. Other teams that are going to be in the playoffs, Tampa Bay, no matter what, in any situation, I can never say that Tampa Bay is out of it. I think Tampa Bay has every chance, every game, no matter what. At one point, I believe much higher on the Commanders than I do now. I feel like that Eagles game is going to be a big tell of whether or not who they are or who they aren't. Because if they get stomped again, or they got stomped the first time by the Buccaneers, but if they get pummeled again by the Buccaneers, if they get pummeled by the Buccaneers, I will say the Eagles game was kind of just a division rivalry game that went right.
Yeah, kind of like a fluke.
Yeah. Other than that, I started to like the Broncos at the beginning of the season. Kind of fell off of it because I kept betting on them. I will admit it was that during their little skid at the end, and I was like, "Man, Broncos, you gotta solidify. Like these guys, they shouldn't be beating you, and they are." kind of saying something right now. So, no, I think the team, since my team's out, you always get to ride a team into the playoffs and hope for the best. And honestly, quite literally, it would be so fun to watch the Chargers make that run with the new coach, prove some things, and that'll kind of be the stamping on Staley's career. You had this much talent, and he actually got rid of talent.
Got rid of a lot of
wide
people.
Receivers.
Running back.
Was able to kind of run it back and do better than you, make it in the playoffs and make moves when you couldn't. So,
yeah, I agree with all that. College football playoffs round 2. I guess we can start in order. New Year's Eve, first game, Penn State, Boise State. Only thing I have to say is if Boise State had a competent quarterback, because this Madsen kid was not it. If they had a competent quarterback, Lawrence, because the defense stepped up, I felt like defense played well enough to win the game. But if they had a competent quarterback, I feel like this is way closer. They probably at least cover the spread.
Okay, I agree. I was high on Boise. I was low on Arizona State, and I'll take back what I said. Arizona State gave me everything I needed to see.
Uh-huh.
They looked bad. If Arizona State just kicked a field goal at any point on any of those tries instead of going for a touchdown,
they win.
Scored touchdowns, got a little bit better on fourth down, they win. It was just that. But like you said, I didn't watch a lot of the Boise State game, mainly because I took Boise State for the spread, 11.5. And they just looked lifeless. You could tell the only thing they were going to get done was running the ball. So if I just stop the running back, we're good to go. We can just go home early. And that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, well, I thought I was kind of riding high on them too, just because, you laid it out there perfectly last week about how they kept pace with Oregon. And that's not exactly what happened, especially to what happened to Oregon the next day. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Did you hear that Oregon has a woman on their defensive linebackers?
Oh, God.
She helps analyze and diagnose plays.
Wow. Shout out to her.
That's how they got cooked so bad. Sorry.
The first game on New Year's, kind of talked about it. Texas versus Arizona State. Viewers almost sold, and the refs should be ashamed of themselves for not calling that targeting. Because if that's not targeting, Lawrence, I don't know if you can ever call targeting on any play ever. That was textbook targeting. Everyone and their mama said that was targeting. And they turn around and say, yeah, that's not targeting.
If this guy leaves the game, Texas has a chance to lose. He's got to stay in.
Not only that, I think they get the first down, right? Because it was like 4th and 5. If it's targeting, it's 15 yards in the first down, right?
Yeah, first down. Yeah.
And then all they got to do is kick the field goal. Because I think they were like at the 40, or around the 40, right? And then 15 yards to pitch you at the 25. I think their kicker's good enough to hit like a 40-something yarder, at the very least. So, I think it's BS.
All that Texas oil money came into play.
But then again, the Texas kicker shanked the field goal at the end. They go to overtime. And Arizona State, they score first. And then they get Texas on 4-12. And I remember in the chat, I'm like, right before the play, I'm like, it's going to Golden. All they have to do is stop Golden, and they win the game. And what do you know? The DB gets beat, and Golden gets the touchdown. I'm like, well.
The fact that there was no safety on him either.
Yeah.
You weren't going to double him up on the biggest play of the game.
I would have pressed one guy on him, and then I would have the safety stacked right over top. And then I'm shading the other safety to his side, too. It's just simple as that. He was the best receiver all night. He kept getting open, kept making difficult catches. And seemingly, he was the only guy Ewers trusted, to be honest. So, I would have made Ewers either beat me with his legs or beat him with somebody else. Because his connection with Golden was golden.
Poetic.
That's all I got to say.
Well, Cam Scataboo, definitely, I think, in my opinion, if I was a GM, that's a first round pick right there.
I agree.
Just from the electric nature that he brings you. I mean, your offense changes. I mean, the fact that he made that throw kind of just that was
On a
one thing.
dime. It was a dime.
That was one thing, and then the fact that he made the catch, and then we were like debating whether or not it was offensive pass interference, like the guys on TV. And then you watch the replay and you're like, you can't call that offensive pass interference. He didn't push off or anything. He literally slowed down, let the guy bump him. When the guy bumped him, he used that bump to get himself pushed forward just enough to get that ball because he saw the ball the whole time. He was just trying to get the defensive pass interference right before he makes the catch. It's like his, maybe I don't make this catch, but I'm going to get something for my team right here.
Like his insurance policy.
Yeah, insurance policy. It was perfect. I was like, dude, you take that first round. And he goes to a team, that's like a late first round pick, too. That's not like an early first round pick. That goes to a team that's like developed. We just need like pieces. We need playmakers. We need spark out of nowhere. And honestly, where does that sound like it's going to go? Where does it always go? Kansas City.
Yeah, honestly, before the game, they had comparisons. He was the only guy since C-Mac to have 1,500 yards and then another 500 receiving or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And if we talking body type, he reminds me of a bigger C-Mac. Why we seen the success C-Mac has had, why wouldn't you want someone who's very similar in skill set, just a little bit bigger? Me personally, if I'm a GM, like you said, I'm picking him late first round. Yeah, if you're like in the middle, maybe you trade back so you can get him. But at the very least, I feel like he's played his way into early second round. Hopefully, if you're a smart GM, you take this kid second round at least, the very least.
I agree. I'll let you do. I didn't watch any of the Oregon game because I bet on Oregon. I just turned that thing off pretty quick.
Yeah, not much to say. Buckeyes came to play. I didn't see a total domination coming, but I did see as long as Will Howard doesn't have to play from behind, Ohio State had a chance, and they were never behind. So, shout out to them. Oregon, Gabriel, I don't know, bro. Gabriel, I don't feel like he's gonna make the NFL. Like I'm not seeing qualities that would translate well. He seems like who's a comp? He seems like he reminds me of Caleb Williams a little bit in that he just runs around the pocket, tries to scramble, and then he gets sacked. Well, it's going to be even worse in the NFL when the lines, sometimes the lines are even worse. So, can't be holding on to the ball that long, buddy. You got to get rid of it. So, I don't think he's going to translate.
It sounds like a Marcus Mariota, and he also went to Oregon. So, that would connect correctly due to that team's lineage of quarterback.
Yeah. Last game, Notre Dame, Georgia. You on the money, Lawrence. You said Notre Dame money line. I took it. I wrote with it.
Yeah,
and
I went heavy on that money line. I really did. I've been kind of seeing. So the pattern I noticed was every team that had a bye looked kind of flat coming out in each of the games before. And honestly, if monkey see, monkey do. I mean, they're all going to keep doing it. It was very clear that the week off did not help those teams. Probably because they're college guys. They probably lost focus or something real quick. Anywho, honestly, if we notice anything this season, anytime Georgia doesn't start off hot and they have to come from behind, they always make you think that they're not going to do it. And then if you keep making me think you're not going to do it, then eventually you're not going to do it. And I just had this gut feeling that they were going to come out flat. They were going to try to come back. And this was going to be one of those times where you're not going to come back. Because the problem is, if you let Notre Dame get a lead that big on you, their defense is so stifling that you're not going to get anything rolling. And then when they get the ball back, they're just going to run it in every other which way possible, whether it's running back, quarterback. You don't even need to physically worry about the air attack that bad. It's just that it comes out every once in a while, and then it makes you keen on it. But he doesn't throw the ball a lot. He's running a lot. The running backs are just getting big runs. And one thing they said Georgia was bad at all season was stopping the run. So just the stars aligned for Notre Dame this night. And honestly, moving forward, I mean, I don't see who stops Notre Dame. Because no one can stop the running. And then when you try to keen on the run, he just beats you through the air. It is almost no way stopping it. And I kind of believe they're going to take care of Penn State as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Stockton played well. I'm not gonna lie. His receivers did sell on him a couple times. He threw some dimes and they dropping him. So
Did they sell all season though?
yeah, that's kind of been their MO too. They can't stop the run and the receivers aren't good. So it's kind of hard as a backup when you're playing probably about as well as a backup can play, and then you still got the same receivers out there and they still dropping passes. So I can't place the blame on anyone, but honestly, Kirby's smart for having the team come out slow, like you said, against Notre Dame, and their MO is just running the ball. Well, if they're just running the clock out, and you have limited chances on offense, you got to capitalize, and they just didn't capitalize until the second half for one quarter, and then that's all she wrote. So, shout out to Notre Dame.
I mean, I'll also piggyback on it. Like, you had an extra day over everyone else.
Yeah.
You had an extra 2 days on one other team. Like, you saw the trend. You were supposed to correct the trend before it started.
Yeah, so.
Didn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Good to see Notre Dame get to the semifinals at the very least. All right, that's college football. I think the semifinal games are the 9th and 10th, so Thursday and Friday, right? So we'll preview those on Wednesday. We got a little bit of NBA and a little bit of NFL to cover in terms of firings. We already kind of went over Gerard Mayo. He got fired. I'm not a fan of it. Lawrence, I don't know if your thoughts on Gerard getting fired.
I just thought, well, to be honest with you, I didn't think he was that good. And in no point in the season did we realize, like, oh man, like there's redeeming qualities here. I mean, from a lot of people, it seemed like it was just an overall awful feeling the whole season. Whether or not he was just left with a pile of scraps and dirt, probably. But still, you have to show some kind of life. In multiple games, they just didn't. So I'm not really that sorry for him.
Yeah.
And especially since he won the last game of the season, which you kind of knew once you won that game, you were going to get canned no matter what. So whether or not he knew something, he was already gone or what, that's not for me to know. But you pulled a Lovie Smith, and you knew what happened to Lovie, so you thought it would happen differently on this team.
They could use just about anybody. So the fact that they can't get Travis Hunter because of you, yeah, you probably expedited that decision. So I think it came right after the game. Kraft put out the statement saying he was fired. So yeah, that's he knew something was up.
You got him steaming mad right at the worst time.
Doug Peterson, he got fired. I believe this is the right thing to do. They had one good season, and that's because Brandon Staley can't coach and let them come back from what 20 something to 0 or something like that.
I think it was 27, right? Or 28.
Might have been 28-0, yeah. So he deserved to go. He was good in Philly. Won with what's his name? That's the backup.
Nick Foles. Mm-hmm.
Nick Foles is the backup in the Super Bowl. So I think that gave him a lot of credibility right there. But other than that, where can you say he's been a good coach? Like, let's just be real.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I mean, his firing was fair. Not much more needed to be said on his firing. I think a lot of people could have seen that one coming as well.
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, he just coached
And
a
in some cases, he
terrible
probably
year.
wanted out as well.
Yeah, because he'll probably get another job, unlike Mayo. But hey, it is what it is. NFL is what it is. You can't hate it and then still watch it every week. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess you can, but I don't know. It's kind of hypocritical. I think that's all the firings. I know there's some coordinator firings. Like I said, Stefanski fired. I think one of his coordinators. I know Old Man Lou is out in Cincinnati. Of course, the Jets, they fired their coach. The Giants, they're sticking with Dayball. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'll let it slide.
Bears, they fired their coach. I think AP is still the coach of the Raiders as of today. That could change sometime this week, but he's still there.
I think he'll stay because my thing with AP is like since he's been there, they haven't given him a quarterback. So like the struggles they have on offense are not his fault. And you already got rid of the GM that caused the problem. So
This is all true. Saints, they fired their head coach. McCarthy, his contract is up. Do we think McCarthy stays? Do you think he goes? Because he's free to negotiate with other teams at this point.
well, I think they're just not going to re-sign him. I think it's going to be as simple as that. I think they're just going to call it a day.
Call it a day and had him head on out. That's pretty much it. I mean, every other team head coach is retained, so not too much else to go over. NFL, NBA wise though, we got the Jimmy Butler situation.
Jimmy Butler. Yeah. How you feeling about Jimmy?
Well, last week, he came back from his illness against the Pelicans. He played decent, but then sat the fourth quarter. I was thinking, okay, we were up. Makes sense he doesn't play the fourth quarter, and he's coming back off illness. Didn't think too much of it. Then the next game versus who did we play, Lawrence? The Pacers. I think we played the Pacers on Saturday. It was either Friday or Saturday, and he doesn't play well at all. He's goofing around, standing in the corner. He doesn't play again in the fourth quarter, and then after the game, he's like, I don't have my joy for basketball. And then they ask him, well, can you find joy playing here in Miami? He says probably not. Then the whole fiasco goes down. They suspend him for 7 games. He formally asked for a trade. Pat says that they were listening for trade requests. And here we are on Monday. So I'll let you go first, Lawrence, and then I'll lay into it. I want to hear your thoughts before. I don't want to sway you either way. Who's in the wrong, Pat Riley or Jimmy? And if they do decide to trade Jimmy, do you think they should do it now? Wait till the summer? And what would you like to see Miami get back?
You got to do it now.
Mm.
You got to get picks, in my opinion. The problem is you guys just never have like your team is always built up of undrafted guys.
Yeah,
and they're always undrafted for a reason, even though they might be good. They still didn't have a lot of eyes on them. And they're known more for like a hustle, play tough team since the days of Dwayne Wade and LeBron leaving. But even then, they still played with a lot of toughness and hustle. I mean, Mario Chambers did come through pretty strong for them multiple times in multiple playoff games. So they have a tendency of that. But either way, I do believe that you guys have to trade him, get a bunch of picks. What do I think about this whole situation for him, though? Honestly, both people are at fault. I mean, he knows he's not going to get a contract of any sort. I mean, he knows that Pat Riley let Dwayne Wade walk. We're kind of just moved off of him, to be honest. But you should never done that with Dwayne Wade. You can kind of see it's going to happen again with him.
Yep.
And honestly, on the other side, you're looking at Jimmy. Like, I can't, for what you are at this point in your career, and I can't afford to pay you like that. I just can't. Like, you're not a guaranteed bucket anymore. I need to have guaranteed buckets around you. And if I pay you, then I'm not going to have that. You're more of my glue piece kind of playoff push X factor, and I'm just not going to get that at the current moment with you. For what you
Yeah,
want.
I agree. I agree with everything you said. You know, people ask me, "Are you still a Jimmy fan?" Well, at the moment, no. I feel like if you pull the same stunts as Ben Simmons or James Harden, I crucified those guys. I don't know. I don't even know if we were podcasting back then, but I was crucifying those guys. I was like, bro, how are you gonna quit on your team? This is not the way to do it. If you wanna get traded, just ask for a trade and then play good so your value goes up. You refusing to play and just lollygagging on the court, not helping your team win. Yeah. How did it pan out for the other two guys? It took Ben like almost a whole season to get traded, and then James Harden did twice, and he still didn't get his way because in Brooklyn, it didn't work out. Then he goes to Philly, and he wants a big contract there. It doesn't work out, and then he does the same thing, goes to L.A., the Clippers, and then still doesn't get the big contract. So, doing it this way, going about it this way, it just doesn't. It never works out. I think you alienate the fan base, even though, like you said, Lawrence, he has a valid reason to be disgruntled. But I think there's better ways to go about it. What would I like back? A lot of Heat fans aren't going to like this, but I don't hate Bradley Beal coming to the Heat, Lawrence. I'm gonna say that. I think I said that a few weeks ago when the first reports were coming out, and it said that Jimmy, would like to be traded, but he's okay staying for the summer if they don't trade him or whatever the case was a couple weeks ago. And I threw out that Beal I thought would be a good fit. I'm gonna throw that name out there right now. I think he'll be a good fit. I know the contract's bad, but I think him and Hero will be a good backcourt pairing. They can play off each other. That Bam Beal pick and roll, that Bam Hero pick and roll, I think it'll be unstoppable. And then you look at it like this: you don't need Bam to score 20 points a game. You say, "Hey Bam, just play defense, grab me 10 rebounds, and hey, just score when you can. You ain't gotta worry about it because we got two guys in the back that can put up 20, and then you just build out the rest of the team." I don't know, but other than that, if you can get picks, get picks. Maybe Ingram. You rent Ingram for a year, but other than that, I don't really see realistic options out there because teams are lowballing them.
Honestly, does San Antonio have a lot of picks? That would be my question.
They have a bunch. They got like 7.
That's the best person to try to get in touch with is San Antonio, because to also do right by Jimmy. Like he's gonna go to he's gonna want to go to a team that's like, I wouldn't say he's gonna try hard, but it has good up and coming talent that he can kind of like fit himself to. And then what better talent than Wemby and Chris Paul in his glory days, pushing through it, but
Yep.
giving you clean passes to just shoot. At least you go there. You don't even have to like be the guy. Wemby's gonna be the guy, and then
Yep.
on top of it, they will be bringing in more people and building more talent there because they got pieces that they can do it with. And you're like one of the first ones on the train to get in, and you just get to watch it get built around you, and then they build things to you. So I think like personally, if I was him, I would want to go to San Antonio, and I think San Antonio would love to say, oh yeah, take these draft picks. We'll take something that's sure, and then hopefully not maybe this year, but next year we can make some moves in the playoffs because I think they play a season early. You just got to kind of hope Chris Paul can make it one more season. Honestly, Chris Paul's coming off the bench and then playing big in playoff minutes. That's also still fair. So.
Yeah, actually, I never thought about the Spurs. But that's a decent destination. They're 8th right now in the West, 18 and 17. I honestly didn't know they were playing that well. So their draft picks are going to be late lottery anyway. So if you're not tanking, then might as well just use them because they're not really of that high of value. So I can see that, and I feel like they could probably clear some space to make that work. I know the Grizzlies have shot up in the betting odds. The Grizzlies are like the third team, I think, and I think OKC is up there too, which is interesting because if I'm OKC, do you break up that squad to go get someone that can get you over the hump, or do you
Try to
say screw it? Let's see if this team can get us over the hump with Caruso added and Hartenstein.
Well, my thing is, I think it's really deep to ask that because when Chet comes back, am I really going to need Jimmy? Like, where's he going to fit in here? Like, you're going to have too many mouths. You're going to have too many pieces. That's just too much. I think the problem with the Grizzlies is I have a high feeling that Jimmy Butler's not going to want to hang out with Ja. I feel like those two are not going to get along, like, at all. I think Jimmy is actually about that kind of thing. Like, he'll whoop your ass real quick. I think Ja's about talking it.
Yep.
And I think they'll see right through it. And I think that's just something that someone like that he doesn't want to play there. He's not going to want to go there.
Yeah.
Another one that I think of, like the Rockets.
The Rockets, I feel like I like the Rockets.
I don't see what pieces they will give up though.
You have to throw in Fred. If they're willing to let go of the Thompson twin and or Jabari, I would do it. Now in that situation, you're probably not getting picks back, but at least you get 2 young players.
Mm-hmm. That were high picks.
That were first round picks, yeah. I like that. They say that they don't want to make a trade, but who knows? They could be bluffing.
There's always a bluffer out there.
Yep. So we'll see. They have until February 6th to move them. I think you're right. I think you have to move them now. But I wouldn't rush it. Just get the best deal you can by February 6th. Because honestly, his trade value won't go up any higher if you wait till summer. And I think, as you saw, I don't know if you watched the game against the Pacers, but him being suspended and one out clearly has a big effect on the team. I think Bam scored like 4 points, bro. I think we got blown out by like 40. It was just
do tonight against the Kings.
Probably lose. I know the Kings aren't doing much better than us, so we're probably gonna lose. You win 3 in a row, and then we're gonna lose 3 in a row. It's not looking too good. Anything else before we head on out? I know WWE Raw is debuting on Netflix tonight, so we got to go catch up with that. They're about 30 minutes in, but anything else you want to go over?
No, I don't. I kind of want to start it from the beginning, and I hope they let me start it from the beginning. But if I have to jump in live, I'm cool with that. I think it was probably just a monologue at the beginning. I can watch on TikTok later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we missed too much. Sounds like to see Roman versus Solo and CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins. I think that's the last match of the night. But let's head on out. NTL Sports, episode 137. We will see you guys on Thursday. Peace.